Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So in this video we're going to talk just a little bit about how basically you can improve or basically begin your end game experience. So when it comes to World of Warcraft, obviously one of the main goals is to hit level 70. As you can see here, my character is level 70, but really, what kind of content do you do afterwards? Thank you, Dragon. But really, what kind of content you do afterwards, and uh, you know what your goals as a player is going to be determined by yourself, but also by what you want to get out of the game. So we're going to talk from the perspective of casual players, and we're going to talk from the perspective of maybe more veteran based players. So the first thing when you have finished obviously the quest line to consider is, well, when you hit level 70, is to finish your quest line. So most players probably will ding level 70 before they complete the main storyline. A lot of players who have done any of these side quests will reach that area, and obviously they will get there. Should you, of course, finish your quest line, then you're going to want to go back and do the main storyline. You can track the main storyline in your quest log. Uh, it will show up here. You will see it pop up under your quests to see as you finish each of the main quest lines in each area. The last of it being just don't ask me to spell it with Thaldraxxus or Thaldrassus. Uh, that's something you should definitely do. The reason being is it's two reasons. So the first is it unlocks adventure mode, which enables you to do world quests, which is crucial to your end-game content. And two, it unlocks that mode for, well, part of one, it unlocks that mode for the alternate characters that you have. And two, the second reason that you want to do this is because there's a lot of value in the after quest line. Now, the after quest line is this current quest line that you can see my character doing, and this quest line is a whole bunch of coherent campaigns afterwards. Not only do they lead to good loot or better loot than what you will currently be wearing, they also lead to reputation, mounts, pets, reputational bonuses, and obviously story as well. So that's kind of the main focal point. Finish your quests, make sure that you unlock adventure mode, and then of course to continue on to the main campaign. Let's say you don't care about questing, or you've now finished the main campaign. What are your next focal points? Well, the first place, or the number one place that I always suggest players to look at once they have finished their questing, barring side questing, if you're a bit of a achievement let's say lover like me, if you are obviously interested in side content, there's two avenues distinctly to go. The first is the PvP route, the second is the PvE route. It's going to depend on what you like. Most players will probably go the PvE route. So the PvE route would be to start with world quests. World quests show up on the map like this, and generally speaking, they drop good rewards. You can start engaging in these once you start your quest line. Most of them will give what I would consider being decent rewards. A lot of them being gold, materials. Some of them drop gear. Most of them, or all of them, will drop reputation. But as you can see, they do drop gear, and that will improve your overall gear score, which is good. That's kind of the open world PvP. That includes, for example, the Marok Great Hunt, which is a great way to get some cosmetics for your dragons, as well as Centaur War Hunting trophies, which are great for your Centaur reputational factions. It includes things like Dragonbane Siege, which is an event that you can take on in the Waking Shores from time to time. The Siege on Dragonbane Keep, you can find it here. And that also includes the Azure Span, the cookout for the Iskara, which will show up every now and then as well. Those are some great open world events alongside the world quests that you can do. And world bosses also fall into this category. World bosses will show up, they will have a little purple ring around them, and they are there, they reset every week, and they can drop decent loot. You can find the loot that they drop under the adventure guide, and if you go to raids and click Dragon Isles, you will see there are the bosses here. They currently drop 389 loot, which is kind of the starting mythic slash raid finder gear, I believe, or normal raid gear, I believe. So that is kind of like your open world questing, kind of your starting point. Maybe you're someone who wishes to go a bit faster, you don't wish to wait on world quests, or maybe you want to get a bit of a head start. You're going to look at, from a PvE perspective, Dungeon Finder. Now, there's two difficulties for beginning players. There is the Dragonflight normal dungeons. These will drop 3, 4, 6 gear. And then there is the heroic. These can both be accessed through the Dungeon Finder tool, and these are kind of the entry level. I would say heroic being possibly the entry level into dungeon mechanics. Heroic drops 3, 5, 6, which is your starting point for mythic dungeons. So let's say you've now done heroic dungeons, you're kind of near your capabilities. Well, Raid Finder will be launching by the time this video is up. Raid Finder, the first wing, will be available. Raid Finder is the lowest level of difficulty for raids, and the Vault of the Incarnates will have Raid Finder gear. Raid Finder gear drops at 398 and 389, 376. There's a varying level to it depending on the boss. Only the first wing is open, which will be the first 3 bosses, I believe. Or even just the first 2. It depends how they divide the wings. I think it will be the first 3 bosses, and then the second one will be 3 more, and the last one will be 2. Raid Finder will be your next kind of go-to point if you want to do Dungeon Finder content. So that is content you can access on your own through the Dungeon Finder, and it is accessible. You don't need to organize a group or organize a guild or anything. Then let's say you want to start doing what is pre-made content. So a good place to start with pre-made is dungeons. Dungeons are strategically easier to develop groups for. There's only 5 people in those groups, and it's a fairly easier run-of-the-mill time. So you're going to go to dungeons. You're going to either start a group or find a group. Ideally, only start a group if you are a healer or a tank. It's a lot easier to fill up the DPS roles than it will be to do, the like filling it up as a DPS. It's going to be a lot harder. So if we take a look and click start group, if we are a tank like myself, otherwise find a group, and you should be able to find a decent group. A lot of people will be doing +2s. This is basically a very super low level dungeon, or you can start with the base level mythics. Mythics are decent dungeons, and mythics stem into the mythic plus. So what mythic plus is procedurally dungeons will get harder the higher you push the keys. So for example, a +2 dungeon has, I believe, 8% more health, more damage than a normal dungeon, a normal mythic dungeon. So this is inherently gradually scaling content. It gradually drops more loot, and this will obviously improve your character. If you don't want to go the mythic route, which is organizing 5 people, your next best bet is going to be to go through to the raiding side of things. Now, raiding is a lot harder to pug. It requires at least a minimum of 12 people, or 10 people, I think, is the bare minimum. To start a group is a lot easier in a guild. Should you not have a guild, you can always find a group. There's tons of groups. Getting into them is the difficulty. A lot of people want you to know strats. You can join a beginner-friendly guild and have them teach you. That will be your best bet. So try and do that if you are looking to get into raiding. Raiding's a lot of fun, but it's a lot more organized content. So maybe even do the LFR version of the raid if you're brand new to content, just to see what it's like, and then hopefully enter a guild or find a guild that will be willing to take you. Alternatively, you can pug here, but it's not really suggested. So that's kind of the PvE route. There are other things like crafting, which is very, very important. It's something you can get into, but it's not mandatory. It's not necessary to progress, so I'm not going to cover it in this video, although crafting is something that's a lot of fun, and I think players can definitely get into it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a mandatory progression path. It's more an auxiliary path for those who are entertained. So obviously, the next route will be PvP. Now, PvP is a much different kettle of fish. I'm not a PvP expert by any means, but PvP generally people will start experiencing PvP with random battlegrounds. Random battlegrounds are literally just throwing everyone in of varying skill caps and having them fight. You're going to want to do these to access PvP gear. PvP gear can be accessed, and we'll fly there now while I kind of chat. But PvP gear can be accessed by the vendor in Valdraken. Now, PvP is definitely gear based, but it is also skill based. It's a highly skill based form of game mode. It requires you to completely change your mentality and builds from a PvP environment and a PvE environment. They're two almost completely separate types of combat. You will generally start with doing random battlegrounds as a way to acquire honor, as a way to potentially accrue the currency to get your starting gear. Once you have your starting gear, you can look at doing things like random epic battlegrounds. But if you want to get really into PvP, if you want to really get to the finer levels of PvP, you're going to either need to do solo arena, okay, which is basically essentially you are shuffled with 3 other players in a 3v3 format, and you basically constantly fight each other in a way to get a solo ranking. The teams will shuffle all the time, or you can do set 2v2, 3v3, or 10v10. This is rated PvP. This is the end game of PvP, and the idea is to get your gladiator ranking. As you can see here, ideally you want to get kind of high enough to get basically the mounts or the set rewards. You can also grab a whole bunch of gear. The thing is, at the end of the day, PvP, although being gear orientated, is a lot more skill orientated. The gear will come with time. You can grind honor for a whole weekend, get a starting piece of, get a starting set within 2 days, and you'll be, set to go, looking fantastic, ready to run. Doesn't matter if you don't understand the content, you're not going to get anywhere. So PvP is a much different kettle of fish. I would suggest if you're interested in PvP, start with some quick matches, just get a feel for things, try out a build, definitely change things up, start collecting your gear, gather some honor, develop that side of things, but definitely look up videos, look up tutorials, look up videos, get more interested in PvP content. You're going to need to change your build, you're going to need to change your talents, you're going to need to do things you don't traditionally do with your class in PvE content. Once you do that, you generally will have a good or a better idea of where you want to take PvP. Maybe you feel it's better to go through more battlegrounds. Maybe you feel like the 10 on 10 environment's better for you. Maybe you feel like you're better in a solo environment or a 2v2 or a 3v3. Obviously, the game always is better with friends. Organize your own 2v2 groups, but plenty of people are always looking for partners. Plenty of people are always looking for people to help learn the content. So you don't need to feel like you are unable to progress. Just understand that PvP is definitely separate from the PvE environment, and I would almost say it's really an entirely different game mode. So we'll just to show you guys where the PvP vendor is and how it all works. So in Valdraken there is and I've just missed him. There is the PvP vendor. It's near the item upgrade vendor as well. And this is where you can access a lot of the rewards for your different classes. You also can find a PvP weekly quest here, which is a great way to farm some honor. And when you get here, you can start picking up PvP sets as well, which is obviously great. Ideally, there are some really, really strong sets that you can get here. You can see that the item level gets increased if you are in arenas or battlegrounds. This is where you want to start. In terms of the starting gear is going to be here at the Honor Quartermaster. This is acquired with pure honor. You get this from just completing arenas and battlegrounds, and it's the #1 way to go. You can spend all weekend farming it, and you should be good. And then Conquest gear can also be accessed. It goes up higher. It's the highest level of gear, but it's only accessed through rated gear. It also has some pretty good appearances as well. If I'm entirely honest, I think it looks pretty swag. So that's kind of the route you can go. If you are a Mythic Plus player, you will also access your item upgrades here. For example, if I want to upgrade my Mythic Plus cloak with my Valor that I get from running Mythic Pluses, I can also upgrade it here. That is kind of it, basically, when it comes to a very brief summary of what you can do as a player to progress. You have to choose between PvE or PvP. You don't have to choose, as in you can only do one of each. If you have time, you can do both. But try and choose a pathway that you're really, really keen and interested on, and you'll have a lot of fun and you'll have a great time. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I hope this helped. If it doesn't, leave a comment down below, and I will try and assist you. But thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.